Speaking of Cavs, guys, the Cavs have prioritized internal development this offseason, right? Because they haven't made any outside moves, so that must be what they're banking on.
Yeah.
To get this Cavaliers team from being a 4 and 5 seed in the Eastern Conference into the top 3. So we figured we'd run through the gauntlet, starting with their starters and making our way down to the bench as long as time permits, and figure out what each player on the Cavs needs to add to their game to improve their overall level of play for the upcoming season. So let's start with the big guns, and we'll move our way down. Let's start with Donovan Mitchell. Jason, what do you think Donovan has to add to his game in 2024-2025 to maximize his full potential?
Trust.
Interesting.
It's a great answer.
Trust in Evan Mobley. If they're going to run more of the offense through him, that means Donovan has to relinquish some of the control. Trust in, and it's something that we talked about quite a bit over the last couple of years about not trying to do everything yourself and just give me the ball and get out of the way and trying to do everything late in games. And he and I talked about how the knee injury he evolved on that, and he wanted to put Darius in positions to have the ball in his hands at the end of games, and just continuing that mindset of, I'm not going to do it all myself. I can't do it all myself. Let's let Darius try and win this game. Let's put the ball in Evan's hands here and run the offense through him and see what that looks like. Sometimes, when he scored, I can't remember now how many points he scored in the Orlando game when he had to take over. There are instances where you have to do it because you don't trust the guys around you. And I think that's what happened in that Orlando game. But through the course of a regular season, when you're on a Tuesday in March in Milwaukee or Memphis, putting other guys in position, let them know what it feels like, and give them the opportunity to win games. So give me trust.
You actually took my answer, so I'm going to switch it and say consistency. Consistency, I say that because it falls kind of in the trust bucket. At a certain point in time of last season when Darius was out, he became a point guard, and he looked really good facilitating and getting other people involved. And then once the playoffs came around, that point guard stuff went out the door. It was just about, I'm going to do what I got to do to help us win. If y'all can join or y'all can't, it don't matter to me. But if you trust them and you're more consistent, you continue to put people in positions to score and facilitate the ball to them, and that shows that you trust them. And I think that would help them, their ego, their pride, because you got to remember that this Cavs team is young. This was only the second time that they've been in a playoff series, and they're still growing. So you got to help them experience some success so they believe in themselves. You got to help them build that confidence. We know you can do it, but we need to get you to help other people believe that they can also be that same impact to a game. So consistently trusting people. How about that?
Mine plays off that. It's off-ball movement. When he's not the focal point of the offense, he has to be more engaged in what he's doing instead of what JB allowed him. He's more than capable of this, so he doesn't have to necessarily add it. I think he has it in his game. He just has to get back to his roots. If Darius is the one initiating offense, or if it's Evan, or if it's Strus, or who's LeVert, he's got to be more of a factor off-ball just to get the defensive attention to make everyone else's job easier, which goes back to trust. If you know the guys with the ball, when it's not in your hands, can execute, you're more willing to move without the ball, be a decoy, and get guys to follow you, which then opens up more space for everyone else. So it plays off the trust, but I would say just be a little more involved as an off-ball mover, decoy, facilitator. Be more engaged in that aspect of the offense. What about Darius? What does he need to improve on the most?
Confidence. He needs to believe that he is that dude. At once upon a time, he was the star in Cleveland. He was the guy in Cleveland. And it seems like ever since Donovan came here, he's willingly accepted the second role. It didn't seem like he fought for it or anything. He just kind of was like, I'm number 2 now. No, if you want this thing to really work, you can be just as good as a Donovan. You can do the same things. You do gotta finish better at the rim, and that comes from just bulking up and trusting that your jaw will be fine through contact. But we don't want to see you in the playoffs dishing the ball when you the open man for the shot. Like, he shot really well in the playoffs, but he only shot like 3 shots. You should be confident enough in yourself to be able to take over. Remember the game where he waved Donovan off and hit the shot?
Chicago.
That's the Darius that we need to see consistently. You are as good as any point guard in this league, but you have to believe that in yourself. I can't tell you that. You have to believe that, and you have to be confident in yourself enough to make those plays.
Mine, I think, can go right alongside of that in its decision making. And how many times did we see him just dribble with no purpose, no compass, wasn't sure where he was going, just pounding the ball, dribble in, dribble out. The 8-second violation of the playoffs, that can't happen. It cannot happen under any circumstance. And that plays into what you were talking about when he waved off Donovan and takes the shot against Chicago. Just being more consistent in the decision-making, being more decisive in the decision-making, and getting back to the player that we know he can be.
Mine was finishing, and I made a note in my phone when I was doing this last night, look up his finishing stats from 2022 to 2023, and I forgot to do that. So I don't have the actual numbers for you, but after the jaw injury last year, it was obvious he was scared of the contact that could come from him breaking down his defender, getting into the paint, and led to second-guessing the best way to finish a good drive. He was still capable of getting by defenders last year. He wasn't capable of making the defense pay for him breaking down the defense. So they, frankly, stopped sending help, and then he got cut off, and then it goes back to decision-making. It puts him in an in-between situation. He doesn't know, do I finish? Do I kick? Mm-hmm. He's kind of helping, but he's not fully helping. What do I do? And that indecisiveness led to subpar finishing statistics and efficiency. If he can get the confidence and the strength back to know, hey, when I get here, my first option has to be shoot, that'll change so much from a defensive standpoint, how they have to defend Darius, that the rest of his offense will open up. So I think getting back into the lab and refining his floaters, his left-handed layups, his right-handed layups, his in-between stop, get a guy in the back, hesitation, then go. Mm-hmm. If he adds that to his game, I think we see the Darius of old for the upcoming season. I want to start with Evan Mobley because the obvious answer is three-point shooting. That's not the answer I want to go with.
That wasn't the answer I was going to say.
It's a killer attacking mindset.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I'll no, you got it. I went first. Go ahead.
Yeah, listen, if he shoots threes, it's awesome. It obviously helps. It creates more space. But more than anything for Evan, he has to find a way to put his impact and his fingerprints over the offense more than he was capable of doing under J.B. Bickerstaff. Now, maybe that's scoring, and maybe it's dominating the offensive glass. I think the way Atkinson is going to use him, and he mentioned the Draymond Green-esque role, is putting him in a facilitator position, which will allow Evan to get the ball in his hands, feel more comfortable within the offense, and then make the right decision to either attack his own guy, find a cutter, find a guy coming off a screen, whatever it may be. With the ball in his hands, he just can't be passive.
Yeah.
And we need Evan, if he's in those positions time after time after time, not to make the robotic play, but to make the right basketball play. And to make the right basketball play on a consistent basis, he has to be in attack mode. Mm-hmm. Whether that's picking off the defense because they're late coming around a double screen and they're sagging off the defender or sagging off the shooter, and hey, he's open, and the pass may not be 100% there, but I can make it, go make it, especially in the regular season. Find out his capabilities and his capacity in that role before the playoffs roll around, so you know exactly what you're getting from Evan Mobley, what he can do and what he can't do to maximize your offensive abilities come postseason time when teams actually play defense. Scoring in the second quarter of Game 13 in the regular season does not equate to scoring and running offense in the fourth quarter of Game 5 of a playoff series. The Cavs need to figure out what works and what doesn't in those situations, and the only way they're going to find out from Evan's standpoint is if he turns into an aggressive monster from an offensive mindset in terms of picking and choosing when he can and when he can't attack.
Very well said. I agree wholeheartedly with everything you say. He just needs to – he need to be a dog. Like, that's just what it is. Like, if you be a dog and you show people, like, I'm a problem, like, if you can try to play off me if you want to. I got the ability to hit a midi. I got the ability to put the ball on the ground, and I'm not afraid to try to go up and try to dunk this thing on your head. What it does is if he is going to be the facilitator, now it puts these defenders in a different position because it's like – even the guy that's not checking Evan got to be ready to slide over to help because this guy shows that he'll put the ball on the ground, make a move, go to the bucket and finish, or I need to put another body there. So if he gets that type of mentality and get that type of reputation, now you got guys sliding over. Now, facilitator role, boom, kick it out to the corner because he's wide open. Now that makes the team better. But if you're going to make him this guy and he's going to stay passive and he's just going to look to pass all the time, well, now everybody's just going to sag off and be like, I'm going to stay in the passing lane because I know you're not strong enough to finish. You looking for somebody to bail you out. So he's got to be he's got to just get that straight dog mentality. I know it's not in your nature, but you definitely can develop it. I said it yesterday. I've seen people develop it. It's a mindset. You tell yourself, I'm the baddest MF on this court, and ain't nobody going to stop me today. If you make that decision, I guarantee you'll find out people will get out your way. They like, this dude is crazy. So you got to have that type of mentality.
Yeah, you guys have covered it. I was going to say aggressiveness, but we're all saying the same thing in different dialects.
What about Jared Allen? I had an interesting one for this.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Find a way to stay out the way. And I mean that in the no, I mean that in the I don't mean it in a bad way, but when they're going to run all this new motion on offense, you can't have two guys clogging the lane. Like and if it's going to be Evan facilitating, he's going to be at the high post. And I don't expect Jared to become a three-point shooter overnight. How do you still have Jared in the paint if Evan's facilitating from the high post and you want guys cutting off him? So what does Jared have to figure out? How just not to get in the way of that. And I don't know what the answer is. I have some ideas. I have some theories that could work, but I'm curious to see what Kenny Atkinson comes up with. So for me, Jared Allen, how do you fit into that system without clogging up things too much?
Kenny Atkinson's offense, he doesn't particularly like guys taking middies, right?
He wants layups and threes.
He better get in the best shape of his life and be ready to backdoor something. So I don't.
Does that make sense what I'm saying, though?
Yeah,
I know exactly what you're saying, but I'm
sense.
trying to figure out what he can do. Like he'll be.
Now, there are ways to create space with two bigs. We've gone over it before.
He'll be a screen setter, but like.
But if you're not going to guard him when he's setting screens on the perimeter, you can just sag in.
That's what I'm saying. I don't.
So he's got to figure out how to be effective without just being around the paint.
He gotta add something to his offensive game.
Or they're going to stagger their minutes a ton.
Yeah, it's got to be. He got to get at least a long midi or something.
And by the way, Allen can facilitate too. All that stuff we talked about with Evan, like Jared's capable of doing a lot of those similar things as well. It's not just Evan Mobley. It's just he's the guy I think they'll start in that position before they put Jared.
Jared was getting a sneaky three
and a half a game.
Yeah, so he actually was when Evan and Darius was out and they was running the high pick and roll. Like he made some nice plays when they passed him the ball. So
what was your answer for Jared, Jason?
I didn't have a great one. I was thinking like he's a willing passer. Work on that. Sometimes I think the answer is guys are who they are.
Yeah.
And he's so far into his career, he is who he is.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Turn into Brooke Lopez.
Well, I know that we have for the segment, you can come up, you can conjure something, but I just think he is who he is at this point, and it just makes my head hurt that you can't play your best players at the same time. That's a problem when two of your best players don't fit together on the court, and that's why. I'm just not. I don't know. We talked about it all summer that if you have to break up the front court, the back court, to me, the answer is the front court. I'd break up the front court because I have more faith in the back court figuring it out because they're two really good players and two ball handlers who do dynamic things. Then I'd have faith in these guys figuring it out in the front court. I just,
Next week I'll do some sort of video explaining, with diagrams, what I mean of how defenses would guard Jared if Evans facilitating from the high post.
Yeah.
And the Warriors, keep in mind, the Warriors ran two non-shooting big lineups with Draymond and Kevon Looney with Atkinson there. So if any coach has seen the best way to make it work, it's Kenny, who was just on the bench with Steve Kerr. Mm-hmm. The difference is in those lineups with the two non-shooting bigs in Golden State, they had arguably the two best three-point shooters in the history of the NBA on the court at the same time. And as good of a shooter Donovan is, as good of a shooter as Darius can be, as good of a shooter as, frankly, Max Strus can be, they're not Steph and Clay. And let's end it with Strus before we bring on Spencer Davies here. What's one thing Max Strus has to add to his game, Tyvis?
He got to find himself in Miami. He got this role that he gets with Kenny. It's really not on him. It's really on Kenny Atkinson to really put him in position where he can just run off screens, catch and shoot. Him at the three thing is just not him, and they got to find a way to get him back to Miami. So if I had to pick a word, it would be consistently hitting your shots, because I think when we needed him at times in the playoffs, he couldn't hit a three. So just to consistently be a good shooter.
Grow 5 inches.
So you talking like me.
He needs to grow 5 inches.
That's not going to happen.
Get on some table and stretch.